So in this video we're going to talk about our experiences with solar in the UK, so solar panels, batteries, installers, and kind of compare our experiences so you guys can make more informed decisions when you're getting solar for your house.
It's electrifying.
Cool, so I think I mentioned on the channel before when I got solar, so Ed got the solar first, which was handy to kind of prove whether it's worth it or not. And we both used different installers, had quotes originally from various different installers, didn't we? So I know I spoke about it a little bit in my own video, but this is kind of a good, just chatting about just industry in general from our experiences, and hopefully some of you guys have had similar things. Perhaps leave comments, or if you're thinking about getting solar in the UK, this is not meant to be horror stories or anything, but just allow you to, I guess if you've had some strange quotes or strange experiences, perhaps some reassurance that's just kind of how some of it is regardless of who you're going with. So no set agenda, just we'll talk about it, I guess, between ourselves, but hopefully it's going to be of interest. And if it is, there's any other questions, we can always do a follow-up one. I thought perhaps one day we can try and do a live stream if that works. And I'd be disappointed there's only one person watching it. So where should we start? I think you looked at solar a long time ago, didn't you?
Yeah, it was around about 2014. Had some cash, so I thought, solar, good idea. Contacted a load of different companies and got some really varying responses back from, I think, systems around about just under 3 kilowatts to 4 kilowatt systems.
That was back when really you could only get like 3.68, wasn't that?
I'll be honest, at the time I kind of trusted that they knew what they were talking about.
Yeah.
They'd look at my roofs and go, you can only get that on there, rather than, I think still the norm now is to only do a 4 kilowatt system unless you are specifically. And all the prices were massively different. The shading factors were from between 0 and 20%. And it got to the point I just thought, I don't trust any of these companies.
Yeah.
No. So I walked away and fitted a log burner instead. And that's been brilliant.
But it's pretty expensive though, wasn't it? But the feed-in tariff was much better, like 39p or something. What was solar? It was
about £6,000, I think it was going to be for a 4 kilowatt system.
Yeah.
So weirdly enough, scaling to what we pay now, it actually scales to roughly the same sort of money. Because
price pound per kilowatt is similar.
Yeah, but except for the feed-in was better then. So actually thinking about it, I might have been better getting there, but I probably would have had a whole roof full of 250 watt panels, no ability to do anything other than that, and struggle a little bit. And there's no way I could have filled a battery or the charge one most of the year round. So I think I would have probably been a bit compromised, to be honest, which would be a shame.
So I think a lot of the people that you speak to that have had solar for a while, like many years, or some of the videos you look at online, they don't see the value of a battery, do they? Like, what's the point? And I think that makes sense, right? Because especially in the UK where the weather's never amazing, right?
Variable.
It's variable, yeah. So scattered showers.
Yes.
So I think, if you I mean, I'm making some assumptions because neither of us have a 4 kilowatt system, but if you did, like in October we're in now, you'd be lucky if you're generating at maximum like 1.5 kilowatts, probably, I reckon. Yeah,
I think on average it'd be probably about 50 watts to maybe 200.
So you're never going to feel like we're obviously going to talk about the Powerwall 2 because we both have one of those, but you're just never going to fill it in the winter months, are you? Like, not even.
I think you struggled to fill it in the summer months as well. I think June, July time, that's when you would be filling it, but you would just fill it. You wouldn't be able to do anything else clever like hot water storage or anything like that. I think you just struggle with it.
And I think, again, I'm making some assumption again, but I think most of the people that have solar up until recently have been the older generation, right? Because they're at home, so they benefit from the solar, don't they? Whereas
disposable income, they've got spare cash.
Yeah, they've got spare cash, but also it makes sense to them to have it, doesn't it? Whereas if you're someone in your 30s, you didn't probably have 6 to 8k hanging around, and you're at work anyway, so probably wouldn't have made any sense because it's generating that 3 kilowatts or 4 kilowatts maximum in the good months, and you're at work and you didn't have batteries and stuff back then. So
there's only so much washing you can do during the day.
Well, yeah.
One load if you're not home. I mean,
why have you got 10 washing machines? Well, you see, I've all got 10 timers.
It uses all my solar.
That's right, yeah. So no, I think, we've both got similar size systems. So do you want to say what size system you had and who it was that installed yours, because that will just set the background when we're talking about and why you went with those people and how many people you had quotes from. And
so I had 3 companies come round in the end, and the prices were all varying. And I actually went with Joju in the end. The only reason I heard of Joju was because of Fully Charged and a certain Crichton. And I thought, I'll give them a go anyway. And the guys on the phone were incredibly knowledgeable, really, really helpful, had some great ideas, and were very good about having the 2 roofs and doing something clever with that. Some of the other companies I spoke to, it was a bit of a battle. And I went with Joju in the end because I felt I'd get a better service because of their knowledge of solar in general. I'm Ed. I have a 6.3 kilowatt system with a 6 kilowatt inverter. So I'm only slightly over generating my system, or whatever the term is.
Small amount of clipping.
Yes, I don't get any clipping.
No. I think, just I know you mentioned it, so you've got panels on your roof of your house and your roof of your garage.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So I've got, and because with Solar Edge you have to have a minimum of 8 panels in a string, I have 6 on my garage roof, and then there's 2 originally on the string on the main roof, and there's the other string. However, that didn't work out, but we'll get there at some point.
And so, I mean, you know already if you've watched some of the other videos, but in case you haven't, so I had Forever Green Energy do my install. I got a 9 kilowatt system, well, a 9 kilowatt array with a 6 kilowatt inverter. So we got the same inverter. Obviously, I have a large amount of clipping. So on those odd days where you can get amazing sun, I think I worked it out over the year. I think it's something like 2.98% clipping. So to me, it didn't make sense to spend another £1,000 or whatever it was to have another inverter just to benefit 2%.
Which you probably wouldn't consume in the house anyway.
Exactly. And I had, well, I think it was 7 companies I spoke to get a quote. 3 of them never turned up.
Did you ever get a quote from Joju in the end?
Yeah, I did. It was more expensive than anyone else's. Yeah.
I remember that, yeah.
So, and so I also spoke, so obviously I went with Joju because, well, we get onto that, but yeah. I got a quote from Joju because you obviously used them. I spoke to, there's a few people near me that got panels, so I spoke to them as well. One of the consistent things I found, I guess maybe because I contacted so many people, was lots of these companies were had gone bankrupt. So we're now set up as either a new solar company with a different name, or the company gone bankrupt as a partnership, and then both those people had set up a solar business, which is why I had such a large number, because I wasn't trying to get 7. It was just, oh yeah, we had these guys, we thought they did a good job. And when I contact them, it'd be like, oh, John and Fred don't work together anymore. So John's got his solar company and Fred's got his one. So I'm like, well, I'll get quotes from both of them because I don't know which one of the good ones was what they were happy with. So, and my prices varied. So obviously I was always going to have the battery, because you didn't have a battery originally, did you?
No,
until
I wasn't sure if it would actually
make sense, yeah. So I was always going to get the battery. So I think my prices with the battery ranged, and I guess not all prices were equal actually. So one of the reasons I went with Forever Green was, one, I'm probably getting a bit ahead of ourselves now, but I went with Forever Green for 2 reasons. One, Ben, who owns the company, seemed really knowledgeable. Well, yeah. Well, his knowledge agreed with my knowledge, I guess, is the best way. He definitely was knowledgeable, but I'd spent a lot of time researching, and we had, I guess, good discussions about that research, whereas other people either weren't interested in listening or had a very set mind on, this is how, you don't need a 9 kilowatt system, you only need 4. Well, I'm the customer, I'll tell you what I want. They weren't interested, so I liked that. They were also, it was only them, apart from Jojo, I think there's one other company that were Tesla accredited, so everyone else couldn't give me a Powerwall, and I wanted that because it worked out as the best kilowatt per pound. Everyone else either had a LG Chem one, or can't remember the other names. We're going to do another video on the batteries, but and then I was quite specific about I wanted the inverter in the garage and all that sort of stuff, and other people were like, oh well, no, that's a pain in the arse, and really want to have it in your cloak cupboard or in your loft. And I'm like, no, I don't really want that stuff there. I want it where I want it. There's already cabling, so that's why I went with Forever Green. And as you've seen from the other videos, no regrets with how that turned out. But in general, again, people didn't turn up, or they'd give me a quote. Or the one thing that kind of really annoyed me the most is some people were trying to get me to fill out that D&O form before giving me a quote to try and force me to basically go with them, because once you've submitted that form you kind of got to go with them, right? So yeah, where were we? I've got off my tangent, but
yeah.
So
install days, I suppose.
Install days, yes. So I mean, you start first because you had your install a while ago. Yours was not super smooth, was it?
Wasn't smooth. I think we both kind of had the same sort of slight challenge when it comes to communication. There was a hiccup with the actual scaffolders. I can't remember what it was. I remember, so we'll ignore that. Where it started to go a little bit pear-shaped was the scaffolders turned up and they started putting the scaffold up, and they didn't seem to be doing any scaffold at the side of the house. And I just asked them, I said, "Are you doing the tower for the side?" No. Okay, but I'm fairly sure that the guy who gave me the survey said I had to have the tower because you can't get ladders up at the side of my house. No. So I rang up Joju and they went, yeah, they need a tower there. Well, your scaffolders aren't doing a tower. So the scaffolders had to come back to do the tower because apparently it hadn't gone across in their design. And that's probably when the alarm bells probably should have started to ring, because my general experience from the Joju install was there may have been a design at day one, but it certainly wasn't the design I actually got. So the scaffold was the first problem. The second problem was I was luckily working from home that week, but they said, don't worry, all your panels are going to get delivered on the day we start fitting them. You don't need to be there. We'll be there on site to help unload the lorry as it arrives. And I just remember it being the wettest day I've experienced in a long time.
That's when that lady turned up, is that one?
Yeah, there's 7.5 ton turns up with a tail lift and a single pump truck, and a very nice lady, probably in her 30s, not very strong, stronger than the average probably, and then went, "Could you give me a hand please?" Because the road I live on is on a slope, there was no way she's safely going to get a pallet of all this stuff off her truck, so I had to give her a hand. And our drive is up a slope as well. It took two of us and we got drenched.
How many panels was it again you got?
So I've got 21 panels, and then all the inverter and all that stuff was on the same pallet. I'd already got the car out the garage anyway, so that was lucky because we had to dump it in the garage. And the guys to do the install, the electrician and the project manager, didn't turn up until the afternoon. And this was the afternoon of the Wednesday. I'd booked off while I was working from home Monday through to Friday. I think the scaffolds came on the Tuesday, the electricians came on the Wednesday, and the roofers did come on the Tuesday as well, and they started work on the Tuesday. So actually maybe the scaffolders came on a Monday. But I was just like, well, why are the electricians turning up so late on a Wednesday? Surely there's not going to be enough time to do all this. Again, alarm bells, probably number 2 or 3 by now. And they started kicking you off, and they did maybe about half a day's work the first day. And I think they managed to get the rails up on the panels, and that was about it. Maybe the inverter up on the wall, that was it. Oh, the inverter was a 6 kilowatt inverter. I actually paid for a 5 kilowatt inverter, but they gave me a 6 kilowatt one. And thank you, Joju. Throughout my experience, Joju has sorted me out. I have some lovely kit in the house, and a lot of it's not what was originally spec'd, and I've come out of it rather nicely. And that's one thing I completely thank Joju for, and they're very clear about it in their terms and how they advertise is that they give you a fixed price, and that is what you pay. And if there are any problems during the day, they will sort them, and they did.
You were going to have an eye booster as well, weren't you?
I was going to have a Soleki eye booster, whatever it's called. And they electrician turned up and looked at the house and just went, no. There's no way I can get a CT clamp to where your fuse box is. You need a My Energy Eddy with a Harvey, and you have to have it. And I went, okay. And Joju supplied me one.
And that's more expensive, wasn't it?
A lot more expensive, yeah.
A couple £100 compared to the eye boost.
Weirdly enough, now we installed, you and I, didn't we, a cable to the Eddy because My Energy recommended that I had to put an extra CT clamp in to work with the Tesla Powerwall. We'll get there later. So you can actually do that. So I didn't need the Harvey in the end, but I have a Harvey.
Yeah. I still recommend the Harvey.
Yeah, the Harvey's.
I've got a video coming separately on the Eddy and the Harvey, but I think the Harvey's
it's a good clever bit of kit.
Yeah.
So they so I got the extra inverter, and then this is when it all started to go a bit more wrong again, because the electrician started to change his mind a lot about how it was all going to work. So he installed.
Jojo using contractors, aren't they?
Yeah, these subbies.
Yeah.
So the guys do a lot of work for them, but they're not employed by them.
Yeah.
So he put the Modbus in my garage, and then checked with SolarEdge and got told that the Modbus actually has to be close to the meter. So he had to move it. But he didn't have a cabinet to put it into, so he had to go and buy a cabinet. And the first cabinet he brought wasn't big enough, so he had to go and buy another cabinet. And the other cabinet took a few days to arrive. But then he needed a consumer unit to power the Modbus, so he had to go to Screwfix to go and get that. But then he realised that the consumer that fit in the garage didn't have the right MCB, so he had to go to Screwfix to go and buy those. And this started to become a little bit of a theme.
So this equipment you're having, so I know you mentioned it before, like one of the reasons I went with Forever Green is because they would do what I wanted, right? Mm-hmm. But did you specifically say you wanted these products, or were these products what Jojo recommended to you? So
they recommended everything.
So they should have known that they needed all these things, right?
There was supposed to be an extra consumer unit in my house. There's going to be another consumer unit in the garage, and they're going to cable between the hot water tank all the way back to the garage, all the way back into the house again, and all the solar was going to go into the house. And again, the electrician turned up on the day and kind of went, that doesn't make sense. It's like, yeah, I know. That's what I've been saying since day one. Why can't you just put a handy block in the cabinet and put me an extra consumer unit in the garage? Yeah. It's like, that would be so much simpler. Yeah, it would be, wouldn't it? Yeah. So they changed the design again to do all that. So everything just what we originally discussed, I don't think any of it was exactly the same, except for the panels. I did get 300 watt panels. I got 21 of those.
Was it JR Solar or something, isn't it? You got,
JA something or other.
It's quite a common panel, isn't it?
I think they class it as a medium level panel. Yeah. So they're not particularly wonderful, but they're not bad at the same time. They're just good panels.
So all the high end stuff tends to be the Panasonic and stuff, which really you're paying a lot for the badge. From the research I did, the warranties weren't particularly better, and the performance wasn't worth the massive increase in cost of the.
And it was a massive increase to go for.
JA Solar, I think it is.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and it's about 300 watts seems to be, I think, the point which is good at the moment for us in 2018 to purchase. So this saga carried on. The week install didn't take a week. It took, I think, a week and a half to 2 weeks. Had problems getting the scaffolding down. And originally I mentioned about my 2 strings. Well, I have optimizers on my panels, and the garage roof is quite low. There's a tree behind it, so we always knew there was going to be shade problems there, especially in the winter. But turns out you can't have the majority of your panels with SolarEdge in the shade with only 2 panels in bright sunshine. It pulls the voltage down too much, and it causes effectively the panels in the sunshine to clip.
You mean the optimizers?
And the optimizers. So the optimizers only have a certain range they work in. They don't work in all ranges. And this is not something that SolarEdge make very clear in their paperwork. And Jojo didn't realise this. So what the correct way to do it is you keep the majority of your panels in the sun and only the few panels that you think may be shaded in the shade. If you don't do that, you have problems. So in fact, I actually had to have Jojo back again to restring everything. And since that, it's been fine. But then we were talking about putting extra panels in. We were talking about changing the panels for higher voltage, higher wattage panels to fix these problems. But again, it cost Jojo a small fortune to get more full set of scaffold up on the back of my house. Electricians back in again to redo it all. But that was it. That was my install.
But I think, because we discussed this, you still recommend them, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would.
Because again, I think like you said, the good thing is they did what they said they were going to do. Right?
They did exactly, and more.
They didn't try and charge you more. They didn't fob you off. You just had to wait a long time and be patient. And I think the frustration. I think I said this to Ben a couple of times, and I still think it's probably true. We are probably bad customers, I think, because
high expectations.
Well, yeah, because we have high expectations. We research a lot, so we're constantly. I say I'm making some assumptions, but I definitely am constantly checking the minutiae of, is this doing this exactly how I think it should, or whatever, and asking questions. Whereas I think the majority of people aren't like that. So you don't know. So if your panels aren't working as well as they should be, you're just like, it doesn't work as well as it should be, as opposed to trying to troubleshoot that. And I think because these companies are so busy, because again, not over the companies I think we've used, because they've done what we asked for, but like I say, these other companies that are just pushing oh, you just need a 3.8 kilowatt system or a 4 kilowatt system, because you don't need any DNO or anything. So again, if you're not familiar with the DNO in the UK, if you have a system larger than that, larger than the 3.8 kilowatts, you need to have approval from the grid operator, because you're going to put, or potentially put, a large amount of power back. So you have to, I guess people don't like that because it means delays, whereas without the DNO you can just keep installing 4 kilowatt systems until you're blue in the face. And I think lots of them want to do that because it's quick money, not very complicated install, is it really? And I think because everyone's so busy, I think that's partly why these mistakes happen, isn't it? The communication thing, or people not quite knowing, and with Joju, with using people they're not using every day, because they're a slightly bigger company, aren't they? I think I don't know if it's true, because I'm locked into it, but they say that they're like the number one solar company in the UK, don't they? I don't know if that's true, that's what they say, but
I think the difference for me is, I know, and excuse me if this sounds a little bit arrogant, I know I could install a solar system. I understand how it all works. I literally could do everything. So because I can do that, I know how it should be done. This is one of the battles I did have with my whole experience with all the solar companies. I told them how I wanted it installed, and none of them would do it how I wanted them to do it. And I had all sorts of mixed stories about you can't use Henry blocks, you have to upgrade the wiring, and it was just all nonsense. And ultimately I got the install exactly how I envisaged I would do it myself.
Was it tight? Like, how were they in terms of, were they messy? Because your install is quite neat, isn't it? You got, in terms of, you got the trunking.
I love.
Did they clean up, or did they leave crap and everything everywhere? Or?
Again, it wasn't perfect. So the Sparky left all his ends scattered all over the place. He wasn't particularly neat there, and I was clearing that up. They do use a contractor to come and get the rubbish, but it needed some chasing to get them to do it. They left a load of rubbish in my garage, which I then had to sort out and bag up. So when their contractor came to get it, it was all bagged up and ready. It wasn't completely cleared up. It would have probably been easier for me just to take it down the tip myself. So that respect was a bit frustrating. The actual install itself with all the conduit, they've done an incredibly neat job. I'm sure at some point you'll put a nice little picture up of it installed. Everything except for the Tesla was done by Joju, and I'm pleased by that. Would I use them again? Now I've seen what Forever Green have done, and I think I paid more for the service. I probably wouldn't. I probably would lean more towards the Forever Green, because they effectively per kilowatt are cheaper, and I think they've done as good a job.
I think it's because they're a smaller company, isn't it? I think they're well, again, making assumptions. I assume their overhead is lower. I guess. Again, making assumptions, because their team is all in-house. I'm assuming it might be a little bit less than contractors. But also, one thing we do know about Joju, they do a fantastic job of marketing themselves. But no discredit to them, right? Because they're doing really smart. So obviously that's costing money to have. They obviously have a very good marketing team, I think, because they're getting on, high-profile stuff. They've been winning some awards and stuff recently. So, and Forever Green's a much smaller company that I guess hasn't been established as long, and there's a cost saving with that. I
did have Joju back, because they did my car charger as well.
Oh yes, you had the Zappy done by them.
That was interesting. I think the best way to describe Joju is that they use subbies, and not all their subbies are the best. They install my Zappy, and I have a Harvey, except for they didn't configure the Zappy to use the Harvey, which is a bit odd in its own right. But I understand that. I thought, okay, they've wired a CT clamp in. That's weird, but they've done it. But then I looked into it further, and they'd wired the CT clamp into the solar generation on the Zappy. And with the Zappy, you have to do it to grid, because the Zappy monitors your grid and goes, oh, you're exporting. You can now pump it to the car. And so my Zappy was misbehaving for probably about the first week and a half.
But they installed the Harvey themselves, didn't they?
They installed the Harvey, they installed everything.
Was it a different electrician?
Different electrician.
Yeah.
And that was the problem, and then the electrician just did a bit of a shoddy job, to be honest, because that was really basic stuff. He clearly hadn't tested it. He hadn't checked anything, and I then had to spend ages on the phone to My Energy to try and work out what's wrong. Trying to get Joju, they were happy to come back to me, but in the end we agreed between Joju and My Energy that they're okay for me to open up the Zappy and redo the CT clamp. So sorted it, and it's fine. It's working brilliantly now.
Is it still hardwired, or are you using the...
No, I use the Harvey now.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I've got the Eddy. I have the Zappy. I want the priority, so I wanted the hot water to go first, and then the car to go next, and then ultimately I wanted the battery to go third. That's not possible. Don't let anybody tell you it is.
It's not possible right now.
Not possible
based
right
on
now.
the software and everything that we have.
And I've had some interesting conversations with my energy about it all.
I think they say they're trying to do it, aren't they? I think. But
well, they told me they could do it, and I
Yeah.
could do it. It was a setting thing, but that's not guessing. We can talk about that another time.
do that in a bit.
So
So I think,
that was me. That was my install.
So then for me, I think how long have you had the solar? So you've had yours 8 months now, haven't you?
8 months. Yeah.
What have I had mine? 2 months. So so you had it about half a year before I. So it's probably about 4 months, wasn't it, that you were like, this is actually working.
Oh yeah. Big
And
time.
I'm looking at the things going,
And I have absolutely.
it's actually working.
So I think I got predicted I'd generate about 5,500 kilowatts of power, and I think I'm already at just under 6,000. So I am going
You're
to
producing more than you thought then.
and more than they said they was going to produce. So
Okay, that's
in
good.
that time, the estimate was spot on. I think I'd probably get slightly more shade than they suggested, but the fact that I'm generating more of it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
So in that, very, very happy.
So the payback should be...
Some of the predictions
What do
I
you-
got 4 years ago, they were predicting dramatically higher figures than I'm even getting now
Right.
with a bigger system.
Yeah.
So I'm pleased.
So must have been after you've had it about 4 months, and I was like, oh, man, that's a lot of money, but the geek in me is also like, I want my own graphs and things to look at and look how much power I'm generating.
Mm-hmm.
So then I decided, instead of having the money in a savings account, I would begrudgingly spend it on solar. So I think I had all the quotes, and we spoke quite often, didn't we? Because obviously Ed was, actually you were probably still going through the install troubles, weren't you? Was it just coming towards an end? Because I still remember there was
I think I was on
some stuff happening, wasn't there?
possibly the restringing or the Zappy challenges.
Yeah,
Probably the restringing.
And so you were saying to me, "Oh, make sure you ask this because this was the problem I had. Make sure you ask that." And so I'm obviously then doing my own research as well. And so then eventually, so I think it came. I think my selections came down to Eon, IKEA.
Hanergy. Or was it Hanergy then? Or was it
No, it was.
somebody else? The Hanergy went, didn't they?
I can't remember what they were now. Forever Green. And then there were 2 other companies that were basically the 2 arms of this company that my neighbours and stuff have had. And then Joju right at the end, just in case. Because I think you still convinced me that...
No, I had to chase Choju to give you a...
Oh,
didn't I?
you did have to chase them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think I'd already made my mind up that I was going to go Forever Green because I really like Ben, didn't I? But you were like, oh, I'll ask them anyway.
Give them a chance, they might do a good deal.
That's right, yeah. And I think I was... Because of the amount of money involved, I was still kind of like, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Maybe next week. Okay, so I had a little bit of interruption. The awesome Sony decided it would overheat, which it does in 4K, and we just agreed it's Ed's fault because he needed the heating on. So I think where we cut off, I was just kind of summarising on the Forever Green install. For me, I think I was saying how they'd gone up on the roof and fixed the slate and everything, but I was really happy they did a tidy job, always swept up, always clean. There was never any bits of cable and all that sort of crap left behind. I think one of the things I didn't mention before is they brought all the stuff with them, so there was no unexpected. Because I remember you were like, I'm like, shit, I need to make sure my garage is clear and loft hatches down so that But they were like, no, we're going to deliver everything. But your version was like, I don't trust them. I'm just going to make sure I'm ready. But they brought everything in the van on half the stuff on the one day.
They ran out of roof clips, didn't they?
On the last day, yeah. So they had to go back and get some of those. But I guess the install did happen in the week.
Yeah,
it said.
yeah.
So they were done by the day they said they were going to be done.
They did exactly what they said they were going to do.
And then it rained.
Yeah.
So I had shit solar for the first day. But no, I mean, that's obviously why I roughly recommend the other video. And then we get on to the fact that obviously you had them come and do
My Powerwall.
Your Powerwall. And I'm going to use them again when I get a Zappy, assuming that they're still doing that. And
Powerwalls are very heavy.
They are heavy. I think the only thing that I think I mentioned this in some other videos is I still think not many people are doing the power walls and stuff like that, so people aren't 100% sure about how they all go together. But this is everyone, like even some of like the US. If you look at some of the US videos, they have to have Tesla do the installs, and even some of them, like they have to wait days and stuff until they get their stuff working. So I don't quite understand why it seems so complicated, but it does seem complicated. But it's all up and running and working. And also the other thing that Simon, who's an electrician for Evergreen, he was always really helpful as well. And like for me, he put in the CT clamp for me that so I got a CT clamp from my energy to be able to connect to the Harvey to monitor the battery, and he installed that for me at the same time as doing it, so I didn't have to faff around taking the consumer unit thing off and everything. So again, they always did everything that I asked for. I don't know if it got cut off, but we were saying that probably not always the easiest customers, because we're very specific about what we want and how we want it and how we think it should work versus what someone else thinks. So
I find it funny that companies out there don't understand or push to get as many panels on your roof as you can. For me, I think the biggest advice and take home for any solar system is get as many panels on your roof as you can physically get on there
and afford this
and then get a battery. I just think if you're messing around with a sort of 3 kilowatt system, you're going to struggle with the battery. You're going to really struggle with payback. If you can afford it and you've got the roof space, then you've got to get over 6 kilowatts really, I think, on there, and then it really works very, very well, because it works all year. That's the key.
I think especially in this country, it's even more important that if you live in like somewhere else in Europe, in France or Spain, where you've got good weather, then maybe a 4 kilowatt system is fine.
Yeah.
Because most of the year you're going to be generating good amounts. But in this country, that's why we discussed this a few times, didn't we? That the reason you want lots of panels is not for the good weather. It's for the shit weather, which is, I don't know what, 60% of the time the weather's not fantastic here, is it? So you want to have the maximum daylight capturing capability as possible. And that's the difference, isn't it, between, I think as we mentioned, that if you've got like a 4 kilowatt system, you'll struggle to generate a couple of kilowatts in a day, I reckon, in the winter. So you're not going to put anything in there. Even a small battery, you're not going to do anything with. So
that was the biggest surprise, I think, with the solar was peak summer for me. You won't have seen this yet. In June, July time, really gorgeous, hot, sunny day. We had some really good summer this year, and my inverter never hit 6 kilowatts. It was stopping around about.
Oh, that's because of the temperature.
4.5, 5.
Temperature problems with the panels, wasn't it?
Yep.
Too hot.
Panels,
for the panels to work effectively.
They don't like hot. They don't like the heat. They have an optimal temperature of around about 27-30 degrees, and because it was hotter than that in the UK, my panels were overheating, and so I was not generating as much as I could do. But again, because I have a larger system, that meant I was still doing better than the 4 kilowatts. But you with your 9 kilowatt, I still think you'll clip at 6 kilowatts. You'll still get there, I think. I don't.
I think so.
5. That was my one big thing that not one single installer ever told me. Jumping back a little bit to when I had my problem with stringing on my panels, it did remind me, the Solar Edge system is supposed to be a monitored system.
Yeah, I mentioned that. It sucks how you pay all this money and you're the owner, but you're not the owner.
And the monitoring doesn't work because I spotted the problem with my panel clipping.
Yeah.
In fact, I sent them all the stats, all the graphs. I told them what I think was happening from what I read from the manuals. But I was paying for a monitored system, so I'd expect the phone call back to
that's
say,
the question. Are you paying for a monitored system though? Because I don't think that no one tells you this, do they? No one tells you that this system you're buying is.
I think did Jody.
Do they?
Yeah, they
so
said
no one ever said that to me.
They have it because they can monitor and tell me if there's any any panels misbehaving. They can then let me know and come out and do a warranty replacement and all that stuff. But they didn't spot the fact that 2 of my panels were really not working well.
I know. So again, Ben from Evergreen, he has looked at my system a few times because when he's rung me, he said, "Oh man, your system's kicking ass, right?" And I'm like, "Yes, that's why I need the battery." So again, I don't know if he's monitoring or just curious because we obviously had conversations about stuff. But so what else were we talking about? Spoke about
energy and different approaches, I think, to how we're using our power.
Oh yeah. So again, we're going to focus on the Powerwall 2. I will do a separate video on some of the other battery technologies I looked at. I think we both agree, if you've got a decent solar system, a Powerwall does make the most financial sense. You can obviously get batteries that are cheaper, but pound per kilowatt, the Powerwall 2 is a 14 kilowatt battery storage that you can use 13.5 kilowatts. So like, you look at the LG Chem stuff, and it's like half that, isn't it? I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's like 6 or something, right? So again, that's what we said before. If you've got a 4 kilowatt system, perhaps it still does make sense to get a battery, maybe. You don't want a Powerwall, you probably want a 5 kilowatt battery or something. But yeah, so the good thing about the Powerwall is, well, I say it's good and bad. I don't like the fact it's intelligent and I don't know what it's thinking, so I can't see. But it's intelligent and it's learning. And I'll have another follow-up video on the Powerwall, but the first few days you have it, it seems kind of dumb. Because you look in the app and it's like, oh, it just tells me what it's doing. But as the kind of days go on, and if you speak to Tesla, it's about a 10-day learning period, it says, and then you get more information on the app, like performance of yesterday and performance for the week, and then you get access to more advanced features to set what your peak is and everything. But whereas I'm just kind of using it just as a battery storage, a solar storage, right? So put power into it during the day, and then as soon as there's no sun, then start drawing from it. But in the UK, we have something called Economy 7, where you have a separate tariff that's cheaper at certain times, and that's what you're looking at, isn't it? Because you're not. Whereas I'm at home all day, consuming electricity all day, and trying to maximising it that way. Whereas you're out of the home, you want to be able to maximise it more in the evening, don't you? And look at filling it up from other means.
I'm joining the Octopus EV tariff, and I'm in that journey at the moment. You have to join Octopus, you have to have a smart meter, and then you have to move to the EV tariff. You have to do those in that sequence. So I've been promised that I can get on the tariff, and it's basically 5p a kilowatt between half midnight and 4:30 in the morning. You can't actually specifically set a timer on a Tesla and say you will charge 100% during these times. You just tell it where the off-peak energy is, and the Tesla looks at the weather, what your usage is, and it works out what it needs to do to charge to make sure it maximizes the most solar in there. So if it thinks that you're going to have a really great solar day, it won't put much in from the grid. It probably just enough to get you through till 9 in the morning when the solar starts. If it's going to be a really bad solar day the next day, it will predict that and try and put as much in on the cheap tariffs to make sure you use cheap electricity. It's quite clever. It's quite cool.
Yeah, I think one thing, because I know keyboard warriors will probably add comments. This is obviously based on 20th October with version 1.26 of the firmware. If you're watching this in a year's time and maybe the firmware is different and you can tell it, please don't waste your time commenting. Right now, you're reliant on Tesla smarts to decide when it's filling itself up or not.
Anybody can tell us the difference between 1.26 and 1.25, then put it in the comments.
Or 1.23 or
I'm sure
1.24 is...
You'll discuss the joys of updating a Tesla later.
Yes.
But that's my approach to the charging of it. We'll see how it goes.
Which I've gone with, I think I mentioned it on, I think where are we? September? Was it maybe my September? No, I think it's my August solar stats for the month that I've moved to. It's another wholesale provider that also happens to be green, so it's all using renewable stuff. Full disclosure, terrible thing to say. I do care about the environment, but I care about the money. That's what I care about. If it was the same price and all from nuclear, I would still go there because I want to save money. But so the Outfoxer market is like just had a price increase recently from 9.7p to 10.02 or something. So yours was like 15p, isn't it? Normal, and then 5 with the Economy 7. So
there's decimals there somewhere, but we round it.
Yeah. So depending on how you're. So again, for me, because being at home all day and always having the computers on, obviously most of the time, even for you probably, I guess apart from your car maybe, but
weirdly enough, it's cheaper for me to go and use a Polar rapid charger at 9p a kilowatt than it is to charge at home.
Yeah. Whereas for me, because I'll be not going to work. I mean, I'm working here, but Honestly.
Working from home, that's what he says.
Yeah, that's right. That's what Jeremy Kyle will do. So then I want to be able to plug in the car and charge it at 10p a kilowatt, or maybe some from the solar, or whatever's happening in the summer. The summer's probably going to be awesome, I think, that power will be filled by 11, hot water will be done by 12, and then the rest of the day can just fill the car up.
Yeah.
But so we'll see. We can both talk about that in the future. How well that. Well, you can let me know if that's working. Probably do that in a monthly solar update of, this is working quite well, but
we're definitely getting different approaches to that. I mean, your Powerwall, you're pretty much charging every single day to 100%, really.
Yeah.
And I'm a week and a half in, and I managed to charge it to 100% once, and the rest of the time it's averaging out about 30-40%. I think this is the longest I've gone now, self-generating, at about 40 hours, depending what my wife's doing at home at the moment.
Yeah. But we have different uses, don't we? Your house tends to, and I've got more computers and stuff, I think, which is why, but your house tends to consume a little bit less.
Yeah.
And one thing we were both talking about earlier is, now the weather's got worse, and we think it might be fridges and freezers, but both of our houses are using less electricity than they had been like a few weeks ago. And the only thing that's changed is the weather's got colder.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing that I think, that fridges aren't coming on enough. So for me, I tend to lose solar power about 4 p.m. in this current month. I'm sure it's going to, I don't know when the clocks change what that will mean, but whereas when I first had solar, obviously just a few weeks ago, it'd probably be good till 5ish, 5:30. Whereas now by 4, I'm starting to pull from the Powerwall, and so I don't really get anything again till 8:30 in the morning. So I need about 70% in my battery. If I've got 70%, I just about will make it. Anything more than that, I'm good. And that's assuming again that we don't decide that kids are eating a different meal, so there's 2 sets of ovens on and 2 sets of hobs, then it's kind of game over anyway, because that's just using too much power. But you don't know, I guess, yet how much. I mean, how much? Do you have any idea how much you need in the battery to get you through the night?
No, I think it's about 50% if we don't use the oven, but that would give me, just enough.
So you electric oven or gas then?
It's an electric oven.
But gas hob.
Gas hob. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm all electric for everything.
Yeah.
So that's why it probably use a bit more as well when you use the oven and the hob. Yeah.
And I hopefully I'm going to change my hot water tank. Because you've got one of these nice modern pressure hot water tanks, and your airing cover's lovely and cool, and you don't have pumps, whereas I've got a pump for my shower which is nearly 1 kilowatt, so every morning I see a nice huge spike as we go through the shower. I mean, it's 100 quid a year, that's it, it's costing us, but I'm losing a lot of heat from my tank.
Yeah, my tank's really good, so there's 4 of us in the house, so showers and baths, 4 days, if the Eddy has done its thing, then 4 days until you need to have it on, and that tends to me is like you have a lukewarm bath of the night of the 4th day. So it's a suitable bath. It's just not I'm not really a big bath person anyway, but like, so for kids, you can still bath the kids in it. They're not going to want to spend an hour playing in it because it was warm enough for the bath. So then you either hope for a hotter day or you put the gas on to heat it up.
You've given the viewers a nice image of you in a bath now. I get 2 showers out of mine before it's cold, that's it.
Yeah, it's a big difference, isn't it?
Huge. So, but we get dry clothes in our airing cupboard.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I've noticed, that because we're obviously now using the electricity, it doesn't get as hot in there. And so whereas my wife would tend to like put up something that she'd washed ready for work in the morning,
she's using the tumble dryer now.
It'd still be wet in the morning because it's like, how come it doesn't get hot in here anymore? It's like, well, it doesn't need to. Yeah. Whereas before, I guess in the winter, because this week I noticed that the Tardos have started turning the heating on, so things have started to get warm. And what I probably will do is, if the heating's on, I'll just turn the water on anyway because it's pumping water around.
I'm going to try and use the second output from the Eddy.
Are you?
Yeah.
Or what?
To put a little heater in the airing cupboard. So when I change my tank and it's cold in there, so the priority will basically be batteries fully charged, then the Eddy fully charged, then it'll go to the Zappies fully charged, and then it goes back to the Eddy for its second output. And if there's electric heater there, it basically means everything in my house is powered, and I've still got. So it's only ever going to work in the summer when you.
I was about to say when you don't
probably
really
dry your clothes on the
right.
survive anyway. But I can do that.
Yeah.
I've got to get used to this second output from the Eddy. I was thinking about underfloor heating, where it's like, it's only going to work in the summer. What's the point?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
No, unless I've got a posh tank with 2 immersion heaters in, and then it works.
Yeah, well, I guess you could. Well, does it work though?
The
It
old-fashioned
doesn't
ones.
do them in parallel, does it? It's
No.
it's
The idea is
simple.
you put 2 in, so
Oh, you'd heat the now water and
the
then
now
the other
water,
one
and
would-
it does the slow burn one.
Okay, that makes sense. So what else I feel like we missed something that we were talking about. Oh, fit stuff. And the fact that I mentioned it in a previous video, but
The joys of good.
so the feed-in tariff is something in the UK where it's getting abolished next year. So if you haven't done it by April next year, then you do want to have a battery with the solar, because the government won't be giving you anything. Well, we believe right now the government isn't going to give you anything. I think they're too worried about trying to get Brexit extensions and other crap to worry about that right now. But you don't have to go with your energy price. So I was with E.ON, so naturally I thought that I have to go with E.ON to get my FIT payment. But Jojo told you that you don't need to do it, and they recommended this good energy.
And for me, good energy, it worked very well. I'm on them, got my little app, I put my meter readings in, and I get paid, I don't know, about 140 quid from them so far. It's a slow process. You put your figure in, it goes off to a central company that goes off to Ofgem. Ofgem pays this central company, who pays the energy company, eventually pays you. And it just works. Not so good for you. Sorry about that.
Well, it's not good. I mean, it's just, well, it isn't good. I mean, it's good. It's so many goods. They say that they take 28 working days to process your thing. They take 28 working days to process your thing. So the problem I had was, so when I had my solar installed, Simon said, take a picture of your energy meter, all the zeros, and fill out your application form. Because again, I got my MCS certificate as soon as I paid, so real quick. But then Good said, well, you can't have a meter reading at 0. And I'm like, well, I can, because I've applied for it when I had the solar installed, and they just wouldn't have it. But they didn't decide to have this discussion with me until like 3/4 of the way through that 28 days. And so I submitted them they said, oh, we haven't got a picture of your meter. And I'm like, well, you have. So I sent them again. And on the 28th day, I think it's the 26th day or something, I think I contacted them and said, I haven't heard anything. And they contacted me on the 28th day and said, oh, well, your meter reading says 0. So it can't be 0, you need to send. So we had a little bit of an argument, and the only other picture I had was of like 3 days later, and I had 114 on it. And they're like, okay, we'll start it from there. So I'm like, well, we spoke about it, didn't we, that at the end of the day, you put this power back into the grid, and the government say it will pay you. So anyone that has solar, after when the FIT thing was a thing, you should get paid for everything, shouldn't you?
And you get paid your export.
Yeah, I know it's only like a tenner or whatever it is, but
I get the FIT part. I mean, it's like the OLEV grant changes and all that stuff. I get that. It has to happen at some point. But if I'm providing electricity to my neighbours, and National Grid isn't having to purchase power from E.ON, Empower, whoever it is, they're just getting it free from little old me, they really should pay something, even if it's a token 1-2p a kilowatt. If they're still charging their customers 15p a kilowatt, they've got no cost, really.
I guess one thing we didn't talk about before the video cut out last time.
It's still recording.
I can see the reflection. We now know that the Sony doesn't have any indication it's recording. So we assume, because we can see the reflection in the window, that it's still working. So if you're still seeing this,
we're not doing this.
We're not doing this again. It'll be the third version.
You would just talk about Jojo, that's it, and just a thumbs up for evergreen.
So was about backup, because I think lots of people think, oh, if you've got solar and you've got a battery, then if you ever have a power cut,
it just works.
That's all good, because you got the sun's out, so your stuff works. In the UK, that again, we can't comment on other countries because we don't know for sure, but in the UK, and I'm assuming it must be similar for other countries for safety reasons, your whole system is basically wired in a way that if there's no electricity coming from the grid, the system shuts down, and that's to avoid if some dude is. So it's funny because we just talked about the camera overheating, and it literally just overheated just then. But so back again. This seat is warmer now, you fart.
This seat's colder this time, so I think it's just that seat.
It's the hot seat. I'm in the hot seat. So we were talking about, I think people assume that if you've got solar and especially more so if you've got battery, that if there's a power cut
Yeah.
and the sun's out, or you've got energy in the battery, then
You're sorted.
you're good to go. But these solutions aren't a generator solution, definitely not in this
They
country.
fail safe so they don't energise the system when you've got a poor linesman working on something.
Yeah,
It goes,
because if you
"Ooh."
have 6 kilowatts going back, they might get a little bit of a wake-up call.
Which is the thing to remember also, that when you are shutting down stuff, is that don't just isolate your fuse box in the house, because the solar will go, oh, there's still stuff. You have to turn off your battery, you have to turn off your solar.
You got to think
to turn
about
off-
more things if you decide to mess with electrics, don't you?
Yeah.
But no, I think in the UK, if we again talk about the Powerwall first, Tesla do a backup gateway. Currently, that's not available in the UK. It is available, obviously, in the US. So if you have this backup gateway, I think they call it islanding, don't they? It's to island your house from the grid. So I'm making some assumptions again because I don't know the detail. It's probably some big F-off relay that basically goes clunk when the grid disconnects, and it isolates. It just creates a ring around your house, like an island around your house, basically, so it doesn't happen.
There's no physical connection to the grid then. Yeah.
Yeah, and so when I was looking at getting solar, that was one of the things I was interested in. So I asked some of the companies to give me a quote for. I think I probably asked Ben as well from Forever Green, but I think I'd probably gone off the idea by then, because lots of the people that had other battery solutions, not the Tesla, were like, oh, well, we can do you a solution which will basically be this other module, like it's basically an inverter with a 3-pin plug on it. And they were again with people that were like, oh, we're going to put all this crap in your loft. So then, I think it was, I can't remember how much it was going to be. And then after reading through the quote, then I was just thinking about overnight saying, this is stupid, because so I'd have this ability to run my house, but it wasn't really a backup solution to run my house. It was, oh, if solar's still generating, you'll have a 3-pin plug that you can plug into. So I'd have to climb up in my loft and plug in this mega extension lead to be able to boil the kettle or something. So I was just like, nah, forget that idea. I think if you're going to do it, you want your house
seamless
to work like it
just
had
works.
a backup generator that is over solar. So we were talking about earlier, it's not clear how much it's going to cost. And I think both the places where we live hardly ever have power. I've had a few power cuts, which is why I've got UPSs, just mainly because I work from home though. If I didn't work from home, I wouldn't care so much that, you know, I can't work with the stuff. So I've just got UPSs on the broadband and everything. But if it was cheap-ish, I'd be interested in getting a backup gateway more for the geek value, I think, than necessity.
You could be the one house with all the lights on still.
Oh yes. But I think it's probably going to be something stupid like £1,000 plus fitting or something. And
for me, it would have to be a few £100, including fitting, for me to want to do it.
I think for me, £500 is my threshold. If you're done for £500, I still think that's
Including fitting? It'd be like $750 including fitting there.
Well, why would it be though? Because it's just a gateway.
What does anything cost?
I know.
Because it'd be like half a day's work.
Okay, £600 including fitting.
You'd have to get permission from. I bet you'd have to get permission from the
You'd
grid.
have to get a new DNO. Well,
It'd be
why would you need permission from the grid?
because you're fiddling with the.
Yeah, but you're not though, are you? You're not fiddling with any of that
Why
stuff.
do you have to do anything?
Yeah, but it would make no sense, would it? Because
That's why you're going to have to do paperwork. Because it makes no
it
sense.
makes no sense. Yeah. So hang on, I'm making this so I don't mess with any of your stuff. Yes, fill out this form in triplicate.
Yep.
But no, if it's £500, I think I'd be interested for the geek value and the novelty value of when you do get a power cut, you just don't know.
Yeah. That would be quite cool.
That would be quite cool.
For at least an hour, and then your power wall's gone flat because you didn't really charge up the day before. But you know,
That's really interesting because you wouldn't know.
see, in America,
Would you know that you had a power cut?
Oh yeah, in America you get the storm setting as well. So if they think you're going to have a storm,
This is the power.
the power will charge up to 100% to make sure if there is a disconnection the next day because of the storm. Now, I haven't seen that setting appear on my phone yet.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that only appears when they think there's a storm coming or whether it's just a US only setting.
Yeah.
But there's
I
a
think it would
few
be
really
cool.
cool features about the Powerwall, which that's a bit of a spoiler alert, really.
Yeah, separate video on the Powerwall specifically. But so what else have we? Because I think the main thing is we still think that even if you're in the UK, it makes sense to get solar.
Definitely.
You want the biggest system you can fit and afford.
Yep. definitely
consider getting a battery. Maybe not a Powerwall if you're not a high. Actually, I mean, I got the Powerwall really for 2 reasons. One, it looks damn bloody cool compared to all the other ones. It actually takes up less room,
yeah,
and it's a big ass battery. I worked out that depending on the time of year, and obviously what we do in the house, in what I call the night time, so after work, we use somewhere between 10 and 15 kilowatts. So I wanted a battery that would either cover most of it. So a 4 kilowatt battery was going to be no good to me because it wouldn't cover enough. And again, this is back to what we said at the beginning. Is when I would tell people this, they're like, "You don't need a Powerwall. It's massive. No one needs 14 kilowatts." And I'm like, "I just told you I need somewhere between 10 and 15. So don't tell me I only need a 4 kilowatt battery because that's what you've put in someone else's house. If Nan and Grandad down the road, perhaps that's all they do need because they just watch EastEnders or Coronation Street or something." I don't watch any of those things, but
it's an AC battery, so you don't have any problems with feed-in tariffs rather than DC batteries.
Yeah. The original Power was DC.
Yeah.
But yeah, so again, not that we're going to talk too much about the Powers, but there's obviously a bit of loss in there, isn't there, because of the conversions. But it makes it a lot easier for people just to get it and plug it in. So.
Definitely get some sort of hot water boost device. I mean, I can't remember how much the Eddy cost, but it was something daft like 350 odd, 400 quid, isn't it?
The Eddy's was £100 more than the iBoost. So what, was it 350 for it?
Yeah, something like that.
It's 350 for an Eddy.
Payback on that is so quick. And if you have a battery, you're not going to get as much. You're definitely not going to get anything in the winter. But if you don't have a battery, it's a good way to store energy. It's the reason I didn't get a battery initially, because I thought the Eddy would consume more power than it did. It doesn't actually. It only does on average about 2-3 kilowatts for me. But definitely get one of those. They're cheap. They're easy to install.
Yeah, it's a good point.
But it's also easy to retrofit as well. So anybody with a solar system now, if you don't have a battery, if you've got one of like the 3.5 kilowatt type systems,
if you have a hot water tank, definitely get it. Yeah, no, you're right. Especially, it pays itself back real quick, doesn't it? Yeah. So if you think that you can't afford a battery, definitely get that's. Unless
you got a combi and you're a little bit more screwed. And then what's that? You can get solar batteries, which are like hot water tank things.
Yeah, I'm not sure about those.
No, I've asked for more information from the company, whatever that is. Sunamp. That was it.
Yeah,
we'll find out.
But no, I still think it's worth it. I think we're not. I mean, I think we've tried to be constructive about it. I think really the idea of this video is, if you're thinking about getting solar, and I think it's when you also read lots of horror stories on the internet, don't you, about things that got screwed up and effed up and everything. So is that something I wrote?
No.
Okay. I lost my train of thought there. But I think it's more that, like any product you buy, isn't it? Nothing's always super perfect and straightforward, but it shouldn't put you off. It's worth it.
Yeah.
So,
like you said in your other videos about your install, we're both Solar Edge fans. A friend of mine's got solar in, and their app is terrible. That's really cool. The Tesla app, I've taken over. That's all I check now.
Right, the Sony's overheating again, so I think this is our signal to probably stop just chatting.
Didn't swap seats this time.
We didn't swap seats this time. Damn it. Should have sat in your lap. But no, so I think what we're trying to say is we think solar makes sense to have in the UK. He's a bit worried now. That's how the camera turns off. Definitely recommend Forever Green. I'm happy with the install I have with them. You're happy with the battery.
Yeah.
And you might speak to them about getting more panels maybe if you decide to. Joju, I think still recommend them.
Yeah, I think you'll have a good system at the end of it. You're paying more. You're paying slightly more than you need to. I hope that means you don't get any ad revenue now, just because there's a little bit of music in there. But yeah,
I think maybe even lots of this stuff's going to calm down when the fit stuff.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want anyone to go out of business, obviously, but maybe people will be less.
They said
busy.
That when the 50p or whatever it was rates disappeared, they said that was going to kill solar.
Yeah.
And we've both brought solar systems.
Yeah, and then the batteries are coming down.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. But yeah, so we think, even if you're in the UK, it makes sense to get solar.
If Renault wants to send either of us the battery, we'll test it out and compare it with the Tesla.
If you've got any questions as well, we're happy to put feedback in the comments. I think, like we said before, get recommendations from people. So don't just use these companies as we've said, or not use them because we've said. But really do your homework. Make sure that you know what it is that you want. And
anticipate you're not going to get an easy ride here. It's not easy.
Yeah, I think you just have to be patient as well, because I think...
Very patient.
Yeah, especially if you want a Powerwall, you need to wait.
You're going to wait 6 months.
Yeah. There were times that I sometimes thought, oh, perhaps I should have just got an LG Chem or something, because it would have been sooner, but I'm definitely glad. It's worth waiting for, isn't it?
Definitely.
Yeah. So, hopefully this video comes together in some form of reasonable benefit, but it was just a chatting video. And I also realised we still didn't try out the strange jelly bean flavour things we keep on saying now do.
Yeah.
Damn it. So yes, thanks for watching and listening to us ramble. Maybe it made some sense, maybe it didn't. Maybe there's some other videos that are more helpful, but thanks for watching. Thanks for watching this video. A thumbs up would be really appreciated. If you're interested in other geek type videos, please consider subscribing to Spectrum Geeks. Why not also follow us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. And before you leave, why don't you check out one of these other videos that may be of interest. Thanks again for watching.